To begin with, if is not a question, is to challenge the Chair Education Committee and members of the Education Committee. Members, if I can have your attention, because it is very easy to make political statements. And what Honorable Meli is making here is a political statement on distribution of infrastructure funds. And I have a very good reason. Kikuyu constituency has 38 public secondary schools. Langata constituency, where Honorable Jalango comes from, has 4 secondary schools. Only. Kathiani has probably 62 schools. You are making a political statement telling us that that money should go to CDF and be shared equally. That is not leadership, that is politics. Because it is up to the ministry to allocate funds equitably and fairly. The burden of infrastructure funds lies squarely within the Committee in Parliament of Education. That is where inequity comes in. Let us just be honest with each other. And the minister has been clear, the deficit that is there in the ministry. Again, it is this house that appropriates money. You told us, Minister, you have a deficit of 42 billion, 48 billion. I wanted you to clarify and disabuse the notion, because there are some people who are telling us that if you took all the money from NGCDF, it would sort out the problems in the Ministry of Education. If on average I take 30 million shillings from 290 constituencies, that is only 8.7 billion shillings. Does it solve your problem? And that is what CS, you should be telling this house, that it is up to the Committee on Education and the Budget Committee to make sure that you have adequate funds, then make sure there is equitable distribution. The Chair Education cannot be telling us that if you take that money to NGCDF, we will solve the problem. I do not need infrastructure money in my constituency. But Honorable Soro here with 78 schools needs more money than me. So you will give him money that I will not need. That's why I said you are making a political statement. To my question, CS, uniform and lunch programs. That is a bedrock of corruption in your schools. And another thing you call desks and lockers. We provide desks through NGCDF. Last week I went to a school in my constituency that has only 189 students. That school has 28 teachers. I had given them 150 desks through NGCDF a year ago. They were asking me for another 50 desks. And I told them I will not give you unless you show me a grade 9 student who went home with a desk. The desks are lumped up in a store somewhere. You give those teachers money for maintenance, they don't use that money and nobody takes note of it. You do not have school inspectors who are doing anything on the ground. It is these members of parliament who have become school inspectors, and you should not subject members of parliament to become school inspectors. The same rationalization you're talking about with TSC. Let me tell you, CS, and I've heard you say it there with your PS, that it is likely some day schools are going to close because of the challenge you have said of the next 3 years after Form 3 and Form 4 clear. The next 3 years after Form 3 and Form 4 clear, those schools will close. And that rationalization, you must make it a reality. TSC is not doing what they ought to be doing in terms of rationalization of teachers. Teachers harass these MPs left, right, and center because every teacher in this country wants to go back to their village to teach in their village. We must decide as a country whether we want to make politics out of education and make everybody happy or do the right thing for our children. Because why would a school with 100 students have 28 teachers and the school next door has 600 students without teachers and you have a county director of education in that sub-county? Those are the issues, yes. Because yourself and your PS, you have the most clueless PS in the Ministry of Education. Most clueless. He only sits in Nairobi and has no idea what goes on the ground. Get out of your offices in Nairobi, go to the ground, deal with the problems there. Then challenge this house, then to get the 48 billion shillings for you from the budget, and we deal with the problem once and for all. Otherwise, what we are doing here now is dancing around issues.
Thank you.
You have danced around the issue of uniform and the circular for school fees. We cannot legislate on school fees. We cannot. You cannot put school fees in a statute. What you should do is tomorrow, CS, you have the powers as a cabinet secretary to gazette. Go and gazette the school fees that ought to be there. When you bring the basic education amendment, we will now be referring to the CS gazetting. But we cannot put school fees in a law. The same thing with uniform and lunch programs. I told you that is a bedrock of corruption in schools. Where are some schools, I see some schools, and I'm referring to my own constituency, and these members will tell you it is the same in their constituencies. You will go and find a school that charges 3,000 for a lunch program. You will find another one charging 8,000, 9,000. And they're in the same locality. Yeah? Under your ministry, you have the school feeding program. Why don't you get the resources from the school feeding program to ensure there is food in the schools, and also gazette the maximum amount that should be charged in a school for the lunch program? You have no reason for a grade 6 student in Kikuyu Township Primary School to be wearing a uniform like the one I'm wearing, then because they are moving to grade 7 to go and change uniform. What happens in other civilized countries is that people just put on a different tie or a badge on your chest that will cost you 5 or 10 shillings. Why are we subjecting teachers to changing uniform, feeding the corruption cartels by teachers and head teachers in our schools with the cartels that are producing uniform? And that is why, CS, it took none other than the president to intervene on the matter of school uniform. You should not subject the president to be the one to be intervening on school uniform. It is you and your peers who should be doing that.
Number 2.
Thank you.
Order.
Thank you.
I gave your leader a latitude to make that positive remark. The rest, one question.